go. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us this morning. So thank you again, Lakshmi, for volunteering to build today. Lakshmi, what I was hoping to do is I've got a challenge within my professional sphere where we are looking to build personalized communications from our business development representatives. So we'd like to send some emails that are personalized from some sales representatives that are basically associated with the account. So we'll have maybe 4 or 5 different sales representatives, and we'd like to tie, individual sender names from each of those BD reps. And then in addition to that, we got to configure the reply mail management, right? So if anybody replies to that, it actually goes back to the sales representative. We don't want these ending up, in our general customer service mailbox. And then if a customer actually clicks on one of the links in these emails, we're hoping to create follow-up tasks for these representatives. So maybe somebody shows some interest, goes to a learn more page, but doesn't actually convert, doesn't open a particular account type. We'd like to flag that activity so our BD rep can actually call them and follow up and say, hey, we've got this new account type. We'd love to talk with you a little more about it. We think it will be a great fit. So I think in terms of what we'd like to cover in Marketing Cloud would be reply mail management configuration, dynamic sender profile creation, and then how we'd actually configure our data extension to support that dynamic sending, since that is where our sender information is going to live. Basically, we're pulling that out of our audience and placing that into the data extension. So yeah, Lakshmi, if you want to start sharing, I think that would be great. Does that sound good to you? Any questions before we jump in? Is there anything in particular that people would like to cover kind of around those topics? All right, sounds good. Well, I think that the first thing that I think of whenever I get a request for dynamic sending is trying to figure out, all right, what are our domains that we can send from already within Marketing Cloud? And then how do we set up or support new domains if we need them? So Lakshmi, I would love to head into our email studio admin section. And let's take a look at the sender profiles that we have available to us and our senders so we can kind of determine what we need to do.
We need to get together to discuss what is.
All right, so if we could check the From Address Management section, please, on the left-hand side under Account Settings. And what this is going to do is this is going to show us the email addresses that we already have set up. And there are a couple different ways that you may be validating your email addresses within Marketing Cloud. You may have a registered domain. You may have an SAP package that you pay through Marketing Cloud. Or you may have to individually validate these email addresses by sending verification emails out of Marketing Cloud. So looking at this, it looks like Tim's got a lot of Cervelo addresses already set up, which is great. What I'd love to do is maybe, let's see, Tim, do we have your address set up as this? Just curious if we've got you in there or not. It looks like we do. Okay, all right. So if we can see down towards the bottom, oh, thanks so much, Lakshmi. You searched for it. Perfect. So we've got that Tim Zeider at handsonsfmc.com. So that's great. That lets us know that that's what we've got. One thing that I came across just in my, searching through my professional challenge right now, is that I've got both, my elements.org domain. That's for, my internal organization. So I can send on behalf of my sales reps that way by, registering or adding that email address, sending them a verification email. But I was a little concerned about that. And the reason for that is that if I'm sending from that parent domain, my domain reputation is tied to that. So while it's verified and I can trigger it out of Marketing Cloud, I'm a little concerned about giving, my marketers permission to kind of send on behalf of that, right? That's my mothership domain. I want to make sure that I'm protecting that as much as possible. So if you do have a child domain, maybe you've got an SAP package through Marketing Cloud, something like email.company.com or something similar. That is something that I recommend sending from, if you have that option available, just to make sure that you're using that kind of managed SAP package and all the protections that Marketing Cloud is already looking out for with you there. But in this case, we'll use that Tim Zeider at handsonsfmc.com address. So Lakshmi, that may be helpful to copy and paste. It looked like you may have had a notepad up already, but if you haven't, I think it would be great to grab that. You got it. Awesome. All right, cool. So the next thing I'd love to do is let's go into our reply mail management quickly just to see what sender profiles we have set up. And we may go away and come back depending on what we find here, but we'll take a quick look. Yeah, I think it should be that top level. Can we select that very top one? We may not have, this may be the defaults. I may just be a little turned around from where we are.
Collections?
It could be. I'm wondering if that's going to be the default for the account. So I think what I'd like to do is maybe if we could try to find the sender profiles. We may have to set up reply mail management. We may just not have a particular one set up. So we could please, yeah, sender profiles. Perfect. All right. I'm looking for something like dynamic. So it looks like we've got a couple dynamic senders there. So if we could please just open those up and just see what we've got for details there. I see dynamic sender profile. I think both
Right
of
there
those
under D. Come on.
good places to start. Yeah, Tanel's got it. Lakshmi's doing a great job. So let's let her find it. Never fun when you're the one clicking around, right? All right. So it looks like that's going to be content blocked by name. So that's not going to do it. So if we could head back up, please, to sender profiles, and we'll check the next one down. I think it's got that external key of 1198. Awesome. All right, that's content blocked by key as well. Okay, so I'd like to set up something just a little bit simpler, just to help us kind of see exactly what's going on. So if we could head back up one level to sender profiles, and then we're going to create a new sender profile. And I like to use this framework whenever I'm doing data extension sends that are going to allow me to actually put my sender information inside the data extension. So if I've got this either coming from an external CSV for maybe my data team, or maybe I'm doing a join, with synchronized Salesforce data and I'm pulling in sender information. I'm going to use a standardized process that's really going to allow me to use the same data extension fields across all of my sends. Yeah, so we'll click on create. That's perfect. Okay, and I'd call this maybe dynamic sender data extension, something similar. All right, cool. Awesome. Thanks so much, Lakshmi. All right. So in this case, we've got some options there under our sender information. We can send from one of those pre-registered email addresses that we've already seen. In this case, we're not going to do that. We are going to use the specified information. So in this case, what I would love to do is let's click the radio button next to specified information, please. And then our from name, we're going to use some personalization strings. In this case, I'd love to do %% send from name. Perfect. And then for from email, we'll do send from email address. Awesome. And Lakshmi, I think it would be helpful to copy and paste those into your notepad, just since we will be using them in a little bit. Awesome. And then this next option here is to use a verified fallback address. So I definitely like using this. So I do believe it will go, you're required to have an account default fallback. Generally, this will be your customer service address, maybe your general catch-all. But I definitely recommend using this fallback address. So in this case, I don't know if we want to look to see Lakshmi. I can head over there and find out what the account default is for you, just so you don't have to navigate away. I'm sorry about that. So I am going to pass you over in the chat. I'm going to send you a quick direct message with this address. And that should be over to you. Thanks so much. And this is just the fallback address for the account. So I'm using the same catch-all for what the account default is. So now that we've got our sender from information kind of populated, this is the address we'll use for our outbound communication. We've got to figure out what we want to do with the email that's coming back. So there are a couple different ways that you can set up your reply mail management. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to have Marketing Cloud sit in between for our replies. The real benefits to using this reply mail management is that any unsubscribe requests, auto replies, like out of office replies, things of that nature will actually be scrubbed from our replies. So we're only going to send what we actually want our sales representatives to action on over to our sales representatives' inboxes. So if we want to scroll down a little bit to the custom reply mail management settings section. Okay. Oh, interesting. All right. So it looks like we don't have anything there. So we will have to head back over to the reply mail management section, I'm going to guess. All right. So we can save this, please, Lakshmi. All right. And it looks like we may have to go into the setup wizard for reply mail management. Yeah, check under company settings, maybe. I'm not seeing it there. So I'm familiar with it within Email Studio, so it may be easiest to get back in there. It might be under platform tools. That may not be a bad place to check too. Okay. Oh, all right, there we go. All right, so let's check maybe our setup wizard or our settings and see what we've got. Okay. I don't think I've actually ever gone through this process before, so let's take a look. Yeah, so it looks like this is setting up the, I imagine the default. Oh, got it. We've got to complete a DNS record redirect before we can activate this. Okay. So I don't think we're going to be able to complete the reply mail management portion of this today, just because I don't want to do this on the fly with Tim's account. So what we'll do is we'll definitely do the custom send from information. But Lakshmi, if you wouldn't mind heading back to our dynamic sender profile, what I'd love to do is just walk through what we would have configured had it been that DNS redirect already been completed. All right, so I think what we've got here is we've got our from name, we've got our from email address, and when we look at our reply mail management settings section, there are some options that we can configure. And what we want to be able to do is we're going to use a custom setting where we are going to send this reply to a data extension field that we're going to populate. So just like we've got our send from name and our send from email address again, we're going to create two fields in our data extension called reply to name and reply to email address. So that's what we would populate here. And what that's going to do is when a user actually replies to our email address, Marketing Cloud will receive that reply. It will evaluate that to see if this is an unsubscribe request. Is this an out of office message? Is this something that I need to, kind of scrub and handle? And if not, it will send that communication onward to the email address that we are going to populate. And what I like to do is I use the same email address value for both of them. So in this case, this email is coming from Tim Zeiter at handsonsfmc.com, and that's where we want that reply to go. That may not be your use case. Sometimes maybe you want these messages to come from a sales representative, maybe a mortgage lender, a very specific account, but maybe you don't want those replies going back. Maybe this is more of a kind of general new product announcement. Maybe it's a happy birthday message, an anniversary message. If for whatever reason you don't want that to go back to the same person, you don't have to configure it to be one-to-one. So you can absolutely send from our sales representative, have that email look like it's coming from them, but then reply back to your customer inbox, mailbox. Maybe it's a CEO communication. You want replies to go back to their administrative assistant. All of those are options that you can configure right here within the sender profile. And what I really like is that by using these data extension containers, these personalization strings, you can swap that out individually. So I can still use the same sender profile, but by changing the values, I can route that email where I need it to go. I'd say the only watch out you'd have from doing that is that, but you have to make sure it's one-to-one. So if you're loading this from a CSV or an Excel document, I've been guilty before of copying, all of my different sender names down correctly, but then maybe copying a single email address, which isn't necessarily what I wanted at the time. So just make sure that you're double checking your data extensions, double checking your files to make sure that you've got the exact right configuration that you'd like. But this looks perfect. So let's go ahead and save this, and then we'll go and create a new data extension. Awesome. And I think, Lakshmi, one more thing that we may want to do is if we want to copy those send from name and send from email address fields again, we're going to use them in our data extension. And I'd love to just create our placeholders for reply to name and reply to email address.
Shall I create or shall I just create those
Yeah,
string values?
we can create it right in a data extension, or we can create it in a notepad. I think either of those are great options. So
Reply to name, right?
Yeah, perfect. Yep. And then reply to email address. So we'll keep that exact same structure. Awesome. All right, cool. So I think because we'll be creating records on the fly, I think it may be easiest to create this data extension in Contact Builder. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a couple more values for you while we do this. But I'd love to create a data extension with those 4 fields. So we'll need our send from name, send from email address, reply to name, and reply to email address. We'll use a contact ID field for our individual that we're going to be messaging with. We'll need an email address field. What's that email address that we're targeting? And I'd love to get a user ID field. And we'll use this in our task creation portion. And then maybe first name. So I'm happy to walk through that again, Lakshmi. I realize that I'm talking at you as we're kind of navigating over there. So
no, that's fine. Is this going to be a lookup DE?
No, I don't think we'll do a lookup DE in this case. I think we're just going to
That's
create the data, from the start, and that should let us, just kind of move through this quickly. Generally, what I would do is I would have a lookup DE. Maybe I'd have a dynamic sender profile table where I would have a list of all of my sales representatives and their email addresses.
Right.
Yeah,
Is it going to be sendable?
I think it should be. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. And Tim, I'm discovering that I have, oh, there it is. I was going to ask you for the correct org, but I found it. I'm trying to go through 30 different sales, so I got to clean up my my password keeper here.
What is the attribute map related to user?
Let's use the user ID, please, and we'll use that in our task creation. And Tim, if you are there, I'm sorry, I am going to trouble you. What is the CRM org name that I'm looking for? I'm sorry, I'm going through all of my trailheads and I'm having trouble pulling it up quickly. Is it the MC demo? All right. So I think we've got most of this great. I'd love to use the contact ID as the primary key, Lakshmi, and then maybe set our email address field to be an email address data type, please.
Yep. You can see here.
You may be frozen for me, so I'm still seeing
Everything else.
Yep, the fields look good. I think what I'd love to do is just to set the email address name as an email address type. Yeah, perfect. Okay, awesome. And I may
Yes,
have just,
MC demo, Matt, is the
awesome.
let me
Yeah, no worries.
send you your user.
Wondering if maybe I overwrote it. But... So I've got the exact target instance, no person. And then our send relationship, Lakshmi, yeah, if we could please just map that to the contact ID for our subscriber key, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
And then I think we can go ahead and create.
So contact ID is the primary key. Everything else looks so. Any required fields on the data extension?
Yes, please. If we could map that contact key to be primary key, that would be awesome. Or contact ID, excuse me.
Yeah. I did that.
Yeah, my screen may just be behind. I'm just not seeing it on my end. So I'm still seeing contact ID as unchecked and the send relationship as the send from name.
There's some internet issue with me. But I have checked the contact primary key
Awesome.
and send relationship on contact ID relates to subscriber key. I'm just completing the DE.
Awesome.
See.
Yeah, as long as that's good to go, we can go ahead and hit complete.
Yeah.
All right, and Tim, I'm sorry. I'm just having trouble getting into the org. I think, Tim, if you wouldn't mind, if you have easy access, I'd love just to grab the user ID of your user just to assign a task to within CRM. That'd be awesome.
Got it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, so Lakshmi, I think once we've got that send relationship mapped, we'll be able to just hit complete and then we can get a record created. Danelle's got a question in the chat asking if the contact ID needs to be the primary key or does it not matter? So I would say it doesn't need to be the contact ID. In this case, it's just a really good identifier. I know that I only want a contact in this journey once, so that's going to be a primary key for me to say, I only want them in this data extension one time. Maybe this is going to be maybe you've got a different identifier, maybe you've got a custom member identifier, maybe you've got a customer number. So whatever your data structure is, whatever that primary key needs to be, and maybe you want to process them multiple times, maybe you want a concatenate of the user ID and a date, for example, to say that I've processed this record today and I've processed this record tomorrow, and that's totally okay. The reason we want to use a primary key is just to prevent anyone from coming through unexpectedly more than once. So in this case, we're just going to set it. And the other thing that I really like about having a primary key is that with a primary key, they become searchable in Contact Builder. So if you're ever troubleshooting later, I can pop that contact ID into the search bar within my data extension and pull up that record exactly. If you don't have a primary key, you can't search. You've got to kind of export the whole thing and then analyze it in Excel or CSV or something similar. Lakshmi, I am able to see the screen. I just have that data extension created. So I'm seeing data extension created success message with an OK button. So that's where I am. So Lakshmi, if that looks good on your end, we can hop into that data extension and let's populate a record, please. So we can hit add record towards the top right. May, if you have a question, go right ahead.
Hi, thanks, Matt. So for each data extension that you want a dynamic sender, we would add those fields into each data extension. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. So for anybody where you wanted to use this particular sender profile, we would use these fields. So these fields we're going to be using as a personalization string in the send. So they need to be present within the data extension. And you don't have to use personalization strings. You can use AMP script values if you'd like to. I have a feeling if we evaluated the dynamic sender profiles that we saw initially, where we were pulling in those contact blocks by keys, I'm going to guess that Tim or the developers there had set up content blocks that are actually pulling those values in. That's another great way to do it. So it's just we're creating placeholders for values that we're going to populate, and that lets us be flexible to kind of move it from data extension to data extension, send to send.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, Lakshmi. So she is.
I'm just connecting to.
Yeah, absolutely. Take your time.
The other Wi-Fi. Bear with me a few seconds. Yeah.
We appreciate you building. Thank you. So, and I think the really great thing about this that you just kind of got at there, May, is that this is really flexible. You really can. You can use it across different sends. If you've got sender tables, you can maintain those within Marketing Cloud. One thing that I've done with great success in the past is I keep a table within Marketing Cloud, but I've got an automation studio automation that actually analyzes my CRM data and keeps it updated daily. So if I have dynamic sends from our mortgage representatives, for example, I can scan my CRM data. I pull in a CRM report that says, show me all of my active mortgage users. Let's bring in their first name, last name, phone number, and title. And then I've also got a field on the user for a fallback. So as an MLO may leave the organization, we identify a fallback user that we would want their communications to come from moving forward. And then I can populate their information, dynamically into our sends. So it becomes a little flexible. It's definitely a hybrid approach between what's in Marketing Cloud and what's not. We're manually importing it, or manually. I'm still using Automation Studio, but it's not synchronized data. So we're kind of synchronizing it through that report. So there are a lot of cool things you can do once you get the framework set up to kind of manipulate. All right, I've got the containers, and I know that part is constant, but how am I going to manipulate, what data actually gets into those containers? So it's pretty flexible. All right, awesome. So in this case, for our record, what I would love to do, Lakshmi, is we're going to use our send from name is going to be Tim Zeider. We want this to look like it's coming from Tim. And then our send from email address will be that hands-on SFMC value that we grabbed earlier. Awesome. And then our reply to name is going to be Tim, and then we'll use our reply to email address.
Is it the same?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. All right. And then contact ID, I am going to search for. We can use our email address. Why don't we send this to myself? So I will give you my email address in the chat here. I just need to see whether there's an S in this one or not. There's not. Okay, so I'm going to pop over an email address. This will be our target email address. First name will be Matt. I'm just popping up a contact ID associated with that email address for you now. All right, I think Tim has passed the user ID in the chat, so we can grab that one, please. Oh, you're already ahead of me. You got it.
Hmm.
I'm just trying to find a good contact ID so we're not populating junk data here for Tim.
You need a contact ID, sorry.
No, it's all good. I'm trying to search for one. I can't believe I'm not in here, Tim. I'm surprised that I don't have a subscriber record in there. I'm searching all my emails and not finding it. Um, Thanks for your patience, everybody.
Yeah.
All right, and I've got one. Just a second while I put it up, and I will put it in the chat.
Just one thing to add here.
Hmm?
If we don't have primary key enabled on any data extension, we can't see this edit button or select a specific record to be deleted or modified. That's one thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. Absolutely. Same thing like with our search. We need that primary key to be able to manipulate that individual record. That's a great point. And, a lot of times I think I don't need a primary key because I'm not super concerned about having individual records. And then I wish I did later when I want to manipulate that single record. So I'm right there with you, Lakshmi.
Yeah.
I think it's a great best practice, even if you're going to do a concatenate with maybe a date or, a communication number, maybe if you've got multiple stage communications. Very helpful to have a primary key, even if you think you're not necessarily going to need one. So awesome. All right, so we've got our sendable data extension. We've got our target record here where we're going to send an email to Matt, from Tim. That reply we want to set up to go back to Matt. We've got our user ID. So in this case, let's grab an email. Let's find an email. Let's make sure that we're creating one with a link. Again, we want that link. What we'd like to do is to track that link, in that click activity, so that can determine whether or not we want to generate a follow-up activity. So let's take a look at our emails, whatever's recently created, and see if we've got something with a URL in it. Okay, so I might try that NTO Welcome Series email initial. I think if that doesn't have one in there, we can probably put one in there pretty quick.
Is it this one?
Yeah, stakeholder, that looks, oh, this one has the advisor preview information in it. So I just think that there may be a conflict with our data extension since we're not set up for it. So I think we may want to back out and just go one more down. I think there was a general, I think it's the same email, just without the advisor preview information.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. And we've got our Explore Now. So I think this is a good fit for our use case. So in this case, we're sending an onboarding informational email, just saying, hey, looking forward to getting together. But we want to identify, right, who are engaged subscribers, who received this message and was curious enough to kind of go on and take that next level. And if they do and they click through, we want to, create a follow-up call to them to maybe gauge their interests. Maybe we've got a particular product we'd like to pitch to them, you name it. So in this case, I think our email's pretty much ready to go. We've got a first name in there, and I think we've got first name in our data extension. So that should match up nicely. So why don't we create a journey, and we'll use this email in there, and we'll get to configuring our activity. Lakshmi, I love that you fill in the descriptions too. I think it's something that I always say I should do. It's definitely a best practice, and then I don't do it, and I'm always cursing myself weeks later as I'm kind of trying to figure out why I made this again. Awesome. So for our entry source, I think we can use that data extension that you just created. Should be good there. Awesome. We've got our one record in there. Perfect. Okay, we'll bring in our email activity once this has been saved. Awesome. And I think what we'll do next is we're going to head down to our message configuration. Yeah, you're right there. All right, and that message configuration, that's where we're actually going to set the sender profile. Instead of using our account defaults, we're going to select that dynamic sender profile that we created. So I think the classification we can leave as default commercial.
sorry.
No, it's okay.
Mm.
So, and I think that's helpful too, is, even just to walk through it, just to see the differences, right? So our classification is going to be, a couple things there. It'll be our profile, our delivery and our sender profile. In this case, the classification commercial is good. Exactly.
Yeah.
We'd like to use that sender profile, dynamic sender DE. Awesome.
Mm.
All right. So our reply name and our reply email. Okay. Yep. And we couldn't set that within our, did we do that? That's interesting. In this case, this is the same. I'm trying to where we created this within the, because what I would expect to see is the reply to name and the reply to email address there. Visualize what you had created, because we did. I thought we had created the reply to portion of this. Now I'm trying to figure out where we saw that.
I don't think we ended up adding the reply.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know, so we didn't have the reply mail management configured, so that very well may be why. So in this case, we're using the same values, so this is going to work out okay for us because we've got Tim as both out, who the email is coming from and who it's going back to. But you would want to watch out for this, or if you're watching the recording later on, if you've got different values there for who the email is coming from and who the email is coming to, you want to make sure that you configure that reply mail management just so your reply name and email address is mapping to those fields in the data extension. In this case, we're going to have both our from and our reply mapped to those send from details, which is okay since those are consistent for us in this application. But just want to make sure you look out for that if you do want different values for your use case. Awesome. All right, so we should be good there, Lakshmi. So the next thing I'd love to do is to drop in a engagement split after our email. Please and thank you. Oh, it may make you drop in a wait step first. I was hoping it would auto-populate, but it doesn't look like it's going to. So I think we're gonna have to drop in a wait step. Just a wait by duration would be awesome. All right, and then you should be able to drop in an engagement split after that.
Mhm.
Awesome. All right, so we'll go to our engagement split and we can configure this to look for a click. And again, this is going to be on your use case. We're talking about if somebody does click, we want to create a follow-up. Maybe you want to set it if they don't click, right? Maybe this is information where you're providing something where you want to make sure that it's been absorbed. And if they don't click, you want to follow up and call them and say, hey, we noticed, you were engaging with this content. It's really important that you understand, this information, whatever it might be. And Zishan, yes, so this will be posted to the Hands-On SFMC YouTube channel later. So we do try to record everything and post them there. All right, so we're going to use clicks. That looks perfect, Lakshmi, and we should be able to select that Explore Now link. Awesome. That looks good to me. All right, and then we can go ahead and let's configure a task activity. So we'll move up slightly to our Salesforce activities. Yeah, then we can grab a task. Awesome. So in this case, if somebody does click, we want to reach out to them and follow up. All right, so we're going to create new. I actually haven't used this email user functionality. I think it's kind of cool. I think it's been out for almost a year now at this point. But this is like if you're assigning a activity to somebody, maybe they're not in Salesforce CRM all day long, you can send them an email as well to let them know, hey, this task has been created and assigned to you. I know a lot of organizations are going to be using queues. Maybe you're going to round robin things. In this case, we do want a one-to-one. We are going to assign this to the Tim user that's sending this email address. So that might be helpful. I'm going to ask you to leave that unchecked for now, Lakshmi. I just don't know what this CRM instant has configured, and I don't want to blast somebody with an email if we can help it. So awesome. All right, so we can hit create new. That looks good. All right, so that assigned to ID, we can grab that user ID that Tim passed over earlier. Awesome. And in this case, we're just using this one. Oh, interesting. Tell you what, if that's not popping up, why don't we clear that out and let's type in Tim and see what we can find. My guess is he does have a user in there. We just got to find the right one. Nothing. Okay, interesting. Well, in this case, let's
check that arrow box. It might be a group versus a user, right to the left of that arrow. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, awesome, perfect. I'm surprised it didn't map with the user ID. But, oh, there it is. Wow. Okay, I don't think I've ever had that before. Awesome.
Mhm.
Good to know.
Okay.
Perfect. So we can save there. Name ID, I would say that we're going to assign to the person in the journey. And this is because we've got that contact ID already in there. We can just assign it to the contact that's flowing through. And we can use that value there, but there's also that radio button as well, which can be helpful. So right below, yeah, perfect. Awesome. And then subject line. So what do we want that subject to be? This will be the subject of the task. And I like to be really explicit in these. So I would say something, like contact clicked, offer an email, please call to follow up or something like that. Really, whatever your business goal is out of this. I like to try to be really explicit so my user on a CRM side knows exactly what drove this activity. Why are they being assigned this task? As much as we try to communicate and the organization wants to all work together, sometimes our sales representatives are busy, right? They may not be aware that this campaign is active or going out. Maybe they got that email and they forgot about it. Maybe it's an ongoing campaign that's, evergreen. So anything we can do to really kind of give them the breadcrumb trail to understand, what's the context around this is super helpful. Your subject line will be a great place to do that. Awesome. So we can save there.
Hey Matt, just one thing I wanted to mention that I was just looking in CRM that contact for some weird reason doesn't exist, even though it's a subscriber. I don't know why we would have deleted it. Do you want me to give you a contact that actually exists in CRM? Because do you think it might?
Yeah,
I
that'd
don't
be
think you
great.
can
Yeah,
create
if you've
it.
got an existing one, yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay, sorry about that. I should have said that before. I just
No,
dropped it in
that's
the
all
chat.
good.
My apologies.
All good. So I have a feeling we're not going to be able to test anyways, just given that we're 7 minutes away and we'll need to bump out our engagement split, but we can certainly start with that at the beginning of our next session. All right, so I think the assign to ID was good, Lakshmi. I think what Tim was saying is that the subscriber, the contact ID that I gave you doesn't exist in CRM. So in this case, when it goes to create a record associated with the person in the journey, it's probably not going to be able to find them, which is okay. So what we'll do is we'll grab that contact ID and we'll swap that out in our data extension before we activate.
Now, what happened to the screen?
We lose it. That's that marketing cloud fund.
Yeah, I don't want to say that, but still.
That's all right. Reinforcement, right? We'll do it twice.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, in this case, we'll use that assigned to the person in the journey, please. And that's again, if we were to put a static value in there, that would assign it to that particular contact every time. So having the dynamic value there is helpful. And you can also map that, as Lakshmi is going to do, going through your marketing cloud attributes if you're passing it in there. But I like the please assign to the person in the journey. I find that if you're using contact ID and lead ID, it's just the fastest way to kind of get through that. I think I'd like to set a couple more fields, Lakshmi, if you don't mind going back one more screen. So my guess is that we are going to have a description field and a status and a priority. I think I always like to try to set those. They tend to be generally required, even though it's not showing up as so on the marketing cloud side. So I think more details is fine for this. This is just placeholder text to us. I think your subject line did a great job of that. So I think just typing in more details is fine for the description.
And Matt, you're right. Priority and status are required for task creation. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm always surprised that it doesn't require that on the marketing cloud side. It doesn't display it as required because it's been required in every CRM instance I've ever come across. So
Yeah, what would be the description?
I think if you just want to autofill that with more details, I think that's great. In this case, we'll just use it as a placeholder. Our description in the subject line was perfect. So just to put something in here.
Do you want me to go back?
No, that's okay. I think what you have is great. I think placeholder, yeah, perfect. I just hit save. I think really it's just what I like to do is just to make sure that people know that it's out there, and that's what we want to populate something in there. So priority, yeah, let's do normal. Awesome. And then just a couple above, there was due date only. So this will be the due date of the activity. I think it's helpful to look at this for a second. If you don't mind scrolling up a little bit. Yeah, due date only. Yep, perfect. So in this case, we'll use the date the contact enters activity, but you may want to give folks a week to reach out. Maybe you want to give them 2 days. So exactly, Lakshmi's doing a great job of highlighting here. You can set this to be 3 days after the person flows through the activity. So it can be really flexible to your needs here. Awesome. All right, so we've got our priority, our status. Yeah, perfect. And we can set that to, do we have a pending or anything like that open?
No.
In this case, let's set it to completed. And these can be helpful. Maybe you want to log, that this happened, so it can show up on the timeline, for record keeping and things like that. Generally, I'd want this to be something like open, something like that, where, it hasn't been worked yet. You want to make sure that sales representative is going to mark it as completed once they've actually made that phone call.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Cool. So I think we've got good stuff here. The only other field I'd love to just hover over for a second is that related to ID. That might be where you can put in an account ID or something similar if you've got that coming through your data extension. In this case, we don't have this available to us, so we're not going to use it. But I do want to put it up there. Just it's very common, especially like if you're using person accounts within your organization. May be helpful. That name is going to be related to the contact record, but the related to ID is generally going to be related to your account ID. So you may want to be passing both of those so you can populate them separately. Awesome. All right, so I think we can cancel out of this particular field and then we should be good to go. Ev and I usually like to give this a name like, I think create task activity is good, log task activity, assign to sales representative, anything like that is great. Awesome. So Lakshmi, the last thing I'm going to ask you to do in the journey here, actually two things. I'm lying to you. If we could please extend if we want to change that value now in the data extension, we can do that. That's great.
Yeah.
So, and it's a good thing we've got that contact ID, right? Because we didn't even make it out of session before we decided we needed to edit this record. So this is perfect. Oh,
And
no.
we can't edit because it's a primary key.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course not. That's the one field that we can't edit. Okay, cool.
No.
So what we can do is, yeah, we can just create a new record. And I think we just saved it with the user ID instead of the contact ID. So I think we want that 003 ending in IA2. And that's okay. So actually, Lakshmi, if you don't mind, I'm happy to clean this up after session because we've only got a couple minutes left and I'd love just to go through the final steps on the journey side, if you don't mind. Awesome. So one thing I did want to point out, we will need to go into the journey settings where Lakshmi is now. So that's perfect. So let's configure those. I would do reentry only after exiting in this particular case. We've got our email address set there, so that's great. We don't need a phone number, so we're good here. So we can hit done. Thank you. And then, so the wait duration here, we've got 1 minute, which I love for testing. But in this case, because we need a couple minutes in between email deployment and click, I'd love to bump that out to maybe 10 minutes. 5 minutes you may be able to get away with, but we need time for the email to go out, for the user to receive it, for the click to occur, and for that to register back to Marketing Cloud. In practice, you may want something like 24 hours at least. Maybe you want multiple steps, right? Cascading. So wait 24 hours, check for a click. If they haven't clicked, wait another 24 hours, check a second time. Your use case is going to kind of determine that. Tim's got some great resources out on the Hands-on SFMC blog about evaluating clicks and creating activities as part of a separate automation and journey. So you can do that to kind of have this running constantly in the background. But for our case, we just want to know who are our hot leads right after this email goes out. So we'll wait 10 minutes, see who's clicked, and then we will assign that task. So just to recap, a couple things we covered today is setting up our dynamic sender profile. So how can we bring in data extension values into our sender profile to kind of mock up emails coming from our reps? How do we make sure that our replies are going back to that same email address? In this case, we can talk about setting up a session to look at that DNS redirect, a different time to set up our actual reply mail management configurations. We talked about creating a task activity within CRM. So if somebody clicks, how do we then assign that follow-up activity to our same sales representative to let them know, hey, you've got a hot lead. Let's give them a call and follow up. And then what I'd love to do is, so our next session is going to be a week from today. So on August 11th, what we can do is actually fire this off, get a click going, and pop into CRM just to view that actually created. Awesome. Cool. And Lakshmi, I can go in and populate that that record with that contact ID if you'd like. I know it's late where you are, so I'm happy to grab that. I appreciate you coming on late at night to be our volunteer builder. Thank you so much.
That's fine. That's fine.
You are very welcome, May. So any other questions from anybody in the group? Awesome. All right, cool. Well, I hope
No
everybody.
questions, but sorry for the disruption because I'm on my side. I'm always talking to myself while I'm trying to figure out where things are at. So I apologize to everybody in the session.
Oh, good. All right. All right. Well, thank you so much. Well, I hope everybody has a great week, and we will put a pin in this one at the beginning of next week's session. Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I
Good night, everyone.
saved
Thank
the
you.
journey. Matt, just 1 second. I saved the journey for sure, but I couldn't see 2 records on the data extension. That's the reason why I opened it. But if someone else can open,
Yeah, I will take a look right after this and make sure that we've got
Yeah.
something good. Awesome.
yeah, is it okay if I just close the browser?
I think you're fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.